Hi friends, this is a general reading for all signs for the full moon in March. It's actually March 21 today, but this reading will carry us through for this moon cycle from March 20th until the next new moon. This full moon is in Libra. It's also the equinox at this time, so we're at the midpoint between the winter and summer solstice. So depending on which hemisphere you're in, you're either having the spring equinox or the fall equinox. But this reading is going to be a general energy transmission for all signs. We're going to use the Voyager deck for the first part to kind of describe the signature of the energy at this time for everyone. And then the second part of the reading, I'm going to take the Morgan Greer deck and pull a couple of cards for each sign to give a little bit more insight into what each of the zodiac would be dealing with more specifically. So tune in with me while I shuffle, please, and check in with your higher self and your guides. Ask them to reach out to my higher self and my guides so that we can create a feedback loop to get really clear and relevant messages that are tailored for you from your guides, from your higher self. It's advised that you set aside anything that you're doing so you're not multitasking to get the most out of our time together. And just be really present here with me while I read these cards for you. Sage of Worlds crossed by 7 of Crystals, 9 of Wands, 8 of Cups, the Fool reversed, Priestess reversed, Child of Worlds, Death reversed, Hangman upright, Libra, sorry I said Libra, but yeah, slip of the tongue perhaps, but this is the Balance card. It's Justice in the Rider-Waite deck, and it is the card for Librans, and this is a full moon in Libra. We have also the Two of Wands reversed, Woman of Worlds reversed, Six of Worlds, and Woman of Cups. The first thing that jumped out at me, you have the Ace of Worlds at the bottom of the deck here as well. So first thing that was really vivid for me when I was putting the cards down is that on this half of the reading, you have Death in reversed, the Fool in reverse, and Hangman upright. So 3 pretty powerful and rather transformative major arcana cards. On this part of the reading, you also have Priestess here, which is also a major arcana card in the outcome position in reverse. Let me just tune in here for a second so I can figure out where I'm going to start from. Well, I'm going to start here in this quadrant. This card, the cards in this area of the reading, in this part of the spread, refer to you at this time and how you see yourself. Obviously, the center of the reading is kind of the general overriding theme or the general kind of energy of the reading, and the crossing card is the challenge. So, in this quadrant, why I decided to start here is because I really like this pairing of cards. You have the Child of Worlds and the Woman of Cups together, and it's a very joyful, very playful feeling. It feels very fun. I feel like there is, for a lot of us at this time, an urge to celebrate, an urge to kind of let loose a little bit, get a bit wild, have some fun, and really let our hair down. I feel like for a lot of people, the first quadrant of this year has been not as, how shall I say that, a little underwhelming, you know, like I personally came into the new year feeling very excited to see what this year has to hold. And given that, you know, last year had so many retrograde planets and there was a lot of trying times for most people that I know, coming into this year, I think we all felt very excited and very happy to feel like what promise the year could hold, given that we had a lot of retrograde planets behind us, and for the most part of this year, almost all planets have been direct, and there's been a feeling of like the possibility of what could happen. And yet, I'm hearing false start. For a lot of people, I feel like this year hasn't actually even really begun yet. And I mean, that's what this moment in time is. You know, like the new moon in Pisces 2 weeks ago was technically the real start of the new year in astrological terms. So I feel like for a lot of us, this might be a moment where we actually really give into that feeling of like, okay, now we're really getting this year started, and Time to celebrate, time to kind of like, I feel like it's a stake in the ground, meaning that the first part of the cycle is over, and there may not have been necessarily any visible evidence of achievements of what this year has brought so far, but I feel like this is a point in time to put a stake in the ground and say, okay, we may not see anything yet, but we all know that we've been working on things, and there has been I'm seeing an image now of seeds being planted, and I guess that's what your Ace of Pentacles here at the base of the deck is. It's that the seed of potential. I think we've all been planting seeds so far this year, and this is a moment to pause, I guess, and reflect about what we have actually set in motion, like the intentions that we've been working with, the ideas that we've been seeding, the things that we've been putting our efforts towards that have not yet been made visible. And this is a moment to perhaps take a pause and celebrate and relax and enjoy our friends, be with our loved ones, celebrate a little bit, get a bit playful, get a bit wild, and I'm hearing boisterous as well. Just get a little bit rowdy and a bit like, you know, tap into the animal kind of instinctual. I'm hearing pleasure as well. I feel like we've all been maybe a little bit dedicated and working kind of hard so far, and this may be a moment to just kind of throw all that off and enjoy ourselves for a moment before we get stuck into the next part of this year and really dig deep to kind of invest our time even more into the things that are meaningful to us, the things that we feel passionate about, and the things that we know are going to bring the types of returns that we want, not just in financial ways, but in emotional ways as well. What else we have here? At the foundation of the reading, we have this Eight of Cups card. It is upright. And the crowning card is the Nine of Wands. I really like these two cards together, actually. Across this central axis of the reading, from the unconscious to the conscious, what this is describing here is that there is a feeling here of overcoming. The name of this card is stagnation, but the energy I'm feeling more is it's not necessarily about having reached a place where things were stagnant and you had to climb out of them. It's more like having reached a certain point of development in certain areas, and now you are kind of we are on this cusp of kind of turning things towards the next level, right? So some of us may have been feeling like we reached a sort of plateau in some areas of life, whether that's in the work that we've been doing, whether in a professional way, whether in a personal way, in our own development, in our creative endeavors. This is sort of describing that kind of urge from the unconscious mind to keep pushing forward, like keep moving, keep striving for more in a way that enables us to feel a sense of achievement and accomplishment. But it's also important to remember that, like, it doesn't have to always be about striving. We need, and that's what these two cards were describing earlier. I feel like it's important to take moments to rest. It's important to take time to recover, to have fun, to enjoy, and not always be so serious and always in a striving place of like what we need to do next for our personal development or for our professional development or for our relationships or whatever. But just simply to relax and enjoy is a really important part of the human experience. Now, what else we have here? As I said, there's quite a few major arcana cards in this reading, and they're all very powerful ones that are describing, especially on this part of the reading, this Death, the Fool, and the Hangman, all very, transformative, life-changing, shedding kind of energies of release and resolve. And I'm hearing persecution. I don't know if that's relevant for someone specific. Let's keep moving into the reading a little bit more. So Death here with the Synergy card. This is the Six of Worlds. These cards here describe what's in the environment or what's around, what kind of energy is around. I feel that what this is describing here is transition in some areas with regard to personal power, I'm hearing. It's kind of a balanced energy as well. It sort of feels very much like these two corners of the reading are related, like this diagonal axis. Because the Six of Worlds in the Rider-Waite deck has an image of a man holding a scale and two people in front of him that he's giving to. It's about generosity as well. But in the Balance card in the Rider-Waite deck as well, there is also another image of a scale. So there is something here about reciprocity, about balance, about sharing, about generosity, about giving and receiving as a way of kind of, you know, making sure that harmony is existing. There has to be an ebb and flow of energy. Now, having this Death card here with the Six of Worlds, it could be suggesting that for some people there may be a need here to address any kind of imbalance that may be existing on that parameter for you. Like if there is an inability to receive, or if there's also a stinginess, there needs to be maybe a recalibration around that idea, around that notion, to be able to bring yourself back into more harmony with life. You know, there needs to be an equation between giving and receiving. It can't be all one way. It's neither beneficial to either only give or to only receive. There needs to be a harmonization of that in order for universal life force energy to really flow at its potential, you know. Now, across the central axis of the reading here, coming from the recent past to the present, or to the potential outcome, like where you're going to from here, Fool in reverse, Sage of Worlds, which is called Master, crossed by the Seven of Crystals, and the Priestess in reverse. So two reversals from the majors. And at the center of the world, center of the reading is Sage of Worlds, which kind of relates to, it's kind of like the sage archetype in the Voyager deck is sort of the highest epitome of that element. So rather than having Page, Knight, Queen, and King, in this deck we have the Child of Worlds, Woman of Worlds, Man of Worlds, and Sage of Worlds. So it's kind of a gender neutral take on the element, and a person or individual who has reached the kind of epitome of what that element has to offer. So that it seems like that what's on offer here for all of us is a chance to kind of really enjoy the earthly realm. I'm hearing pleasure again. That came out earlier when I first talked about these cards here. So it's a very physical reading, actually. Even though there's all these very spiritualized major arcana cards, I feel like there's a lot of it feels like the reminder here from the collective higher mind is that there is an impulse towards understanding that the physical realm does hold so much of everything, in the sense of, you know, I think sometimes with spiritual quest and, you know, kind of becoming aware of consciousness and starting to move in a certain direction, there is this denial of the physical, and then denial of money, or denial of the body, or denial of pleasure, and all these kinds of like kind of rejection of the human elements that are places where there could be potential for imbalance or excessiveness. And I feel like there's a reminder here through the spread that it's actually through the physical realm that we can experience those heightened expressions of contact with the divine, with spiritual energy, with life force energy. And so I think what's coming across here, what I'm feeling is that we really need to be embodied in our physical expression to actually achieve a sense of enlightenment, or a sense of consciousness that we may all be yearning and striving towards. And that sort of, you know, the imagery of the devil card, or those kind of cards, that the kind of energy that is that sort of excessiveness and, you know, what's the word? Attachments and overdoing, like excessiveness in any way that leads to things like addiction or obsessiveness and such like that. There is this reminder here through these cards. What I feel is that it is kind of like an urge towards expressing a type of enlightenment, or a type of physical, what's the right word? Physical presence, through the senses, through heightened sensitivity to the physical form. And that these are actually, like this, it is the avenue. It's really an avenue for us as humans to actually experience enlightenment and higher vibrations of spiritual energy, of other dimensional energies, actually through the vehicle that we have. And it's not something to try to avoid. It's not trying, you know, to. I think we're in a different era now. Like there has been a lot of spiritual teachings from texts of eras gone by and generations gone by where that was a heavy focus, you know, like denial of pleasure, denial of the physical body, denial of money, and all these kinds of things were seen as avenues towards enlightenment and spiritual development. But I think we are in a different time now, and it is really important to understand the importance of the physical form as our vehicle for those sorts of experiences, which can actually lead to enlightenment and spiritual expansion. And yeah, so that's what I feel like is what a lot of is being described here. And there is a lot of Pentacles cards here, you know, a lot of worlds. So you have the Child of Worlds. There's a lot of there's 3 out of the 4 court cards from the Pentacles suit is here. So we have the Child of Worlds. So that's the Page of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Sage of Pentacles, as I mentioned earlier. So there is like an impetus or an urge towards physical pleasure, physical sensation, physical expression as a vehicle for consciousness expansion and heightened expression of spiritual energy, I guess, for lack of better words. Now, what else is here? In this quadrant here of the hopes and fears, we have the Hanged Man upright with the Woman of Worlds in reverse. I basically did. I've basically read all the cards now through all the things I've said until this point. So the Hangman there, I do feel like there's something about that with regard to, you know, what I just described there. In times gone by, spiritual teachings have focused a lot on denial of pleasure, on denial of the physical form, on rejection of money and wealth and abundance, and this kind of like martyrdom. If you look at the image in this card, there is the image there of Jesus Christ, and I do feel that there is this kind of like is an end to when it's just not the time we're in now, where martyrdom is the way to express, you know, spiritual involvement. Nobody cares about martyrdom anymore, and you shouldn't either. It's time to move on from that kind of like notion that in order to evolve or to be more evolved than others, there needs to be a kind of suffering, or there needs to be a kind of like burden of like what you're carrying for other people, as far as like the sacrifices that you're making in order to kind of help the greater whole. Done. I think it's time now that we're in is to really embody physical beauty, physical expansion, physical expression, physical health and well-being, physical beauty, pleasure of the senses. These are channels through which we can really embody and understand heightened spiritual energy and greater evolving of humanity. So I think without that kind of, and I'm not saying that like, again, like, okay, so the other, everything in balance, of course, right? Everything in balance. If you take that too far to one extreme, then you go in the same direction of like greed and excessiveness and addiction and attachment and suffering in the same way as you would if you were to deny all those things too, right? So it is about harmonizing and balancing and finding an equanimous, reciprocal kind of energy of like giving and receiving. You know, everyone can enjoy physical abundance, but we can all share, you know. It's not about a few people having all of the wealth and the rest of us kind of being impoverished and struggling and suffering. Let's just see what else is here. Let's have a look at the bottom of the deck. As I mentioned, there's the Ace of Worlds there at the bottom. We have the Ten of Worlds now too. So again, more of the Pentacles cards coming out, more of that energy I was describing of the physical experience that we're having being kind of the vehicle for us to really experience evolving, consciousness expanding. Strength in reverse and Woman of Crystals in reverse. There's also the Emperor here. I'm going to take that. So I feel like I've already described what the energy is here of these cards with what I just said regarding abundance and pleasure and senses and expression of the physical form through the earthly realm being the vehicle for us to actually expand and experience consciousness. So that's kind of covered there. Strength reversed with the Woman of Crystals reversed. There is quite a few like feminine archetype cards here in this reading. You have the Woman of Cups, the Priestess reversed, the Queen of the World of Cups, sorry, the Woman of Cups there, sorry, Woman of Worlds, which is Woman of Pentacles. So now there's three cards here of the women cards, which are the Queen. So this is the Woman of Crystals reversed. Let me just tune in and see what I can get with that. And as well, as I said, there's the Priestess reversed here and the Strength card. Both of these also have kind of a fairly powerful feminine archetype to them. And then you have this card here, the Emperor, which is very masculine. What do I feel? The Strength card in reverse. I'm hearing anger issues for that, Strength in reverse. There could be an imbalance there of emotions caused by, you know, difficulties that have been kind of compounded over time. You know, like if this might be a specific message for someone here. If you've been in a trying and challenging situation for a long time, more than what's comfortable, like if you've had to deal with oppressive energies or controlling and suppressive kind of energies for a long time, and without you being able to feel like you can access a solution that's doable, that's achievable, that's executable without it causing too much kind of fallout, I'm hearing. You know, maybe you're dealing with a masculine energy that's very controlling and very causing you, like, expecting submission from you. I feel like this is a really specific message for someone. This could be just giving you a little bit of inspiration and motivation to let you know that, like, that time could be coming to an end, and this is a moment for you to reclaim some power and actually call back your energy from places where you've been giving away too much, or sort of sharing too much, or overly doing for others, or overly, you know, submitting to someone else's needs and wants. I think we're coming into a time now, we're starting a cycle where those kinds of interactions will change based upon your own withdrawal of your energy. I think that this is a time where a lot of people may start to acknowledge that imbalance of giving and receiving, and that could, you know, if you've been giving more than you've been receiving, and that's become like an expected role for you to take on, that your needs are not even acknowledged or even witnessed by another person, and you're kind of in this role where you're sort of overly giving, overly caring, overly nurturing others without kind of any acknowledgement or any reciprocity for your needs and wants. I feel that this could be speaking to a time where those kinds of cycles are ending, and you could be at the point now where you're reclaiming a lot of your power and starting to kind of call back your life force in a way that's empowering to you, and doesn't necessarily mean that you end your giving or you end your loving, you know. It's just a change in frequency, it's a recalibration. And it's fundamentally a purification. Like, if there's been an imbalance, which we don't really talk about these two cards here, but what's interesting is the colors here. It's kind of very similar, these kind of pastel blues and pinks in these two cards here. And the Two of Wands is also a card about balance. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the balance card here in this position, it's actually relates to the Justice card from the Rider-Waite deck, from the Major Arcana. So it's a Libra card, and this is a Libra full moon that we're in right now. I feel like for a lot of people, I think relationships fundamentally are getting an overhaul. You know, like if there has been imbalances in relationship where there's been expected generosity from one side to the other and not much reciprocity for that, or not much acknowledgement or care or concern, if there's been a lot of one-way traffic, I think this is a moment where some of you might actually be ending your relationships at this time. Others of you may be using this moment to address certain issues and communicate about things that maybe have been held for a long time without actually having been able to have a voice to kind of bring certain things out, to address issues that have been maybe there for a long time and haven't had the voice that they've needed. I think this is a time where a lot of clearing is going to happen. It's going to be a purification. a shift in the dynamic based upon certain individuals rising up in their own power, like discovering the voice that they have within to express the authority that they have of themselves, of their energy, and where it goes and how it's used, you know. Just looking again at the colors here, it's really interesting. Like these 4 cards here have this really beautiful kind of oranges and reds. It's kind of earthy, like the lower chakras, sort of from the waist down. And then a lot of the cards in this main part of the reading, in particular these 3 cards, have this very like elevated kind of feeling of like these colors from like the throat up. And I feel there is a lot of, it is kind of a harmonizing between the kind of the lower chakras and the higher chakras. That's what it feels like, that kind of harmonizing and balancing of the physical and the spiritual, you know, like as I was describing earlier, that kind of integration of like physical form being the expression for our spirit energy, our spiritual energy, and the ways that we can kind of harmonize and balance and bring into focus a clarification around like absorbing spiritual energy in our physical form in a way that is really expressing spiritual consciousness through our physical bodies. So rather than a denial of pleasure or denial of abundance or comfort or beauty or any of those types of physical endeavors that in previous times may have been denied as distractions from spiritual progress, I think we're moving into a time now where we can really address these what's the right word? They're tools. They're really tools for enlightenment, tools for spiritual growth and expansion. Okay, that's it. I feel like that's it for the general reading for everybody. Just going to check over and make sure there's nothing else here. Okay, so I'm going to take the Morgan Greer deck now and shuffle again to give specific messages for each of the signs. Just pull a couple of cards for each sign to give some more information about this general energy signature for this time period. I would recommend that you do watch all of them though, because I don't want you to get attached to your sign and the messages specifically to your sign, because all of them or some of them could be relevant to you. So I would suggest that you do watch all of them and just take what comes, accept what resonates, and work with those messages. If they're for you, you'll know it. And don't be too attached to your specific sun sign, because at the end of the day, those sun signs are kind of arbitrary when it comes to the way that I read the tarot. It's just a way for me to conveniently organize my channel here. So do watch all of these and take what works for you and work with that. Leave what you don't need behind. While I'm shuffling, please come into the space with me and check in with your higher self and your guides. Send your energy over into the deck so that I can get really clear messages that are tailored for you. I'm going to start in a second with Pisces and work my way around the zodiac. So okay, Pisces. The Emperor, as we had just there. The Emperor and the World. Beautiful. 2 major arcana cards here, both in the upright position. Feels very empowered, I would say here. My feeling with this is that there is something here around a kind of integration is what it feels like. There's a sort of integration between like your masculine and feminine energy. It also feels like a kind of, I would say closing of a cycle with this being the World card here, but it feels not more like, rather than a closing of a cycle, it feels like transcending. There's something here about patriarchal energy. For some of you specifically, this could be a message about your father or your relationship with your father. There's some kind of shift here internally with the way you view masculine energy and the way you embody your own masculine and feminine energies, and how you actually kind of coming into a more embodied space of being empowered within and having a sense of your inner guidance is working, is better, is more what's the word, functioning better. This Emperor is also the Aries card too, so for some of you, you might be dealing with an Aries, or this could be an indication that during this time period that we're in now, we are just starting into Aries season actually, that there could be something significant happening for you this month around your, like specifically that energy of like masculinity, around your fire, your willpower, your drive, your empowerment, and how you, I'm feeling like for some of you there's a shift here in the way you present yourself to the world and the way you also see yourself in the world. It's a bit of both there, and they're connected. If there's an internal shift within you with regard to how you see yourself and how you want to be seen by others, this could be a time period where you start to really, I'm feeling like this, you're sort of pushing it out into the world, and it's starting to become viewed by others. This may be something that you have been considering and cultivating and like crafting for a couple of months or a little while now. And I feel like during this time period of the Aries season, that you might be now feeling more courageous and more available to kind of express that in the external ways to the outside world for other people to see. Beautiful. So after Pisces, we have Aries, Ace of Pentacles reversed, and Ten of Wands reversed. Hold them this way. So I feel for the Aries people that there is something here about ending a struggle. That's what I feel. There's an end to a struggle here with regards to something that you may have been, seeds that you've been planting. We had the Ace of Pentacles in the previous reading as well, with regard to kind of the general energy of the spread. I remember that was at the bottom of the deck at the beginning. I feel that for the Aries crew, that there's something here around, like the initial phase of something has now been completed, and that first part of like that really steep uphill climb is over. It's kind of like an end to a struggle, and you may find yourself gliding into this next part of this year with a little bit more, I'm hearing, freedom from struggle. It's a feeling of like you've reached a plateau in the climb, and you're actually able to enjoy now the view a little bit more rather than just trying to catch your breath all the time. I feel that there is, I'm hearing gains. I'm hearing gains. I feel that there is now that you've put in this initial phase of beginning of something. This could be with regards to a new project or a new business or a new relationship. If you've passed that first initial stage, that things may feel like you're getting into a space where you're enjoying a little bit more harmony and a little bit more comfort and a little bit more relaxation. Although it's not the feeling is that it's not like you're going to sit back and just coast from now on. It's more like, and when I say that, I mean you like not do anything anymore. It's more like you kind of hit a stride where your energy is a little bit more in a routine and a rhythm where there's a bit more comfort with the daily process and daily kind of work that needs to be done. It feels a little bit more in a routine, in the sense that there is a familiarity there and a bit of a comfort with how things roll each day, and so there's less stress, less anxiety, and less exhaustion, less tiredness, a bit more efficiency, let's say. That was for the Aries. So next is Taurus, Page of Cups, and Ten of Swords reversed. Interesting. So what I feel here is that some of you may be coming into a time here where you're feeling a little bit more creative. And what I feel with this King of Swords in reverse here is that there's an overcoming, or again, transcendence is the word that's coming through, of a sort of sense of needing to overthink things, or needing to kind of constantly, just had to change the battery there. So what I was saying with this Page of Cups and the King of Swords are in reverse for the Taurus people, is that I was feeling here that there is coming into a time where there's a little bit of a boost of creativity and a bit more of a sense of kind of ideas coming more easily, and overcoming this kind of King of Swords energy in reverse, where there's a little bit too much overthinking and overly needing to process things with words and with like logical kind of ideas and progression of thought. It's a feeling here of moving into a space that's a little bit more fluid and a bit more creative or more like channeling rather than kind of having to strive for things to come. It's a little bit more of an ease with information coming through, and kind of putting aside a kind of linear need to kind of create thoughts and ideas that lead to something. I hope that's making sense. So top to Taurus, we have Gemini, Temperance, and the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Interesting pair here. I feel for Gemini, what the interpretation here for these two cards is that if you're in a space where things are in motion and changing, and look, like both of these cards have a similar energy where like, you can see from the Temperance card that kind of moving of water between two vessels. It's kind of a similar energy of motion that this Wheel of Fortune card has here. I feel like there's the energy I'm feeling here with these two cards is that there's a little bit of shuffling going on where, like, you kind of have a direction, you have ideas, and you have a sense of like where things are going, as far as where you want to direct your energy. But there's still some shuffling of like movement between ideas and people and places, and things may not settle into a real groove for a little while yet. But there's definitely motion, and there's definitely like process, and there's movement forward. But is still some adjusting. That's what it is. It's an adjusting energy. There's a period of adjustment. You may have moved location recently for some of you, or you may be moving jobs, or there's some kind of transitional energy here where I feel like for the next, because it could be a couple of months period, this energy where there's this transitional feeling of like still kind of settling, still kind of grounding into a new space, getting in a groove, like a resonant energy with the environment that you're in, until things really feel like you're in a real flow. But there's definitely progress forward here, and there's a big energy here around like feeling like you're getting into your right alignment for Gemini. Okay, after Gemini we have Cancer. Eight of Swords reversed and 10 of Swords reversed. Okay, Gemini, let's talk about it. Sorry, Cancer. Looks kind of gruesome, but I actually feel like it's a very beneficial energy here coming through these two cards. I feel that there is a shift here away from like a mental, what's the word? Like a time period of confusion or uncertainty is ending, and there is a shift here towards like more clarified, more unified thoughts is what I feel. And this may actually mean that there's a little bit of discomfort while things readjust, but for some of you actually it's going to be much smoother and much easier than it has been as a result of this energy, where something's finally put to rest. Some kind of issue around, well, it's going to be different for everyone, but there's something here around like a lack of clarity, or some kind of way in which your energy has been tied up, and it's something around like really inefficient processing of information, whether that's to do with work or relationships or family life or whatever. This could apply in any way. But some kind of clarity has come to you where you're now able to put aside a certain way of dealing with things or doing things or being even. So that your energy is a little bit more freed up, and there's a greater sense of like understanding and clarity and an ease. It's like a time of ease is coming in, where the time that is ending has been kind of inefficient and maybe a little unnecessarily strife filled. So I feel like there's an end here to a kind of period of strife and a period of confusion. Greater clarity is coming, and a greater ability to see kind of the way that you are actually directing energy and the result of that. I feel like that some of this energy of these two cards is that you haven't been necessarily willing or available to see what it is actually that you've been creating through your own thoughts and ideas. And this could be a moment where you actually come to understand that you've been creating the strife that you've been experiencing, and now you're actually understanding that it's up to you, and you're able to put down some of that confusing energy that's been creating some of that inefficiency. So moving into a space where things feel a little bit more clear and more guided by intuition and feeling, rather than like striving and overthinking and overcompensating, trying to create It's like you've been purposely trying to make things more difficult because it feels like that's the right way to do things, but you're understanding that it's not. Leo, Knight of Cups reversed and the Nine of Pentacles reversed. Okay, Leo. This Nine of Pentacles card came out in the readings for maybe 3 or 4 signs in the last month's readings. And that's rather unusual because I hardly ever see this card come out. I notice it because it's one of my favorite cards, so I'm always really happy to see it. But what I would say here with these 2 cards in this reading here is that I feel that for some of you, there is a time now that you're in where you may be becoming a little bit more aware of how your, perhaps places where you're feeling insecure or feeling a little bit lacking in self-confidence, or maybe places where you're not valuing yourself, is limiting the amount of offers and opportunities that might be coming towards you, whether that's in work or in love, in relationships, in creative inspiration as well. So I think that the message here is to, rather than try to make things come towards you, is focus your energy internally on self-love and self-care, self-nurturing, to create a vibration within you that allows for those kind of offers to come towards you with ease and naturally, rather than trying to force. So if you're waiting for this kind of offer, or if you're waiting for an offer of love, or if you're waiting for creative ideas to emerge and you're feeling a little bit stagnant and a bit stuck in either of those areas, then the Nine of Pentacles here is suggesting that to turn that around and bring these kind of offers towards you, you need to get this card turned around too. That means focus on self-love, self-care, nurturing, building self-confidence, and creating a space of understanding your true value. Not easy work, but that is basically like the real spiritual work that there is to do. Is like it all comes back to self-love at the end of the day. Now for Virgo, we have the Queen of Cups reversed and the Queen of Pentacles reversed. Interesting. And these 2 ladies are facing each other. You see that? I feel that for Virgo, what's going on here is that this may be a little bit of a time of emotional and physical insecurity or uncertainty. You may be in a time where there is a transition. I feel like for Virgos, this has been going on for quite some months now, this period of transition where you may not have landed yet in this new space, but you have already closed out an old situation. So I feel like the message here is just to simply keep riding with it. I think you understand that this is just a moment of time where energy is in transition and things are changing. And if you're not feeling so secure about things, it's okay, because you know that this is actually just a moment and you will land soon. So use this time here to really just focus on, again, same kind of energy there with that previous reading. Actually, these 2 cards from the Leo reading are very, very similar in energy from these 2 cards for the Virgos. So similar message there. Yeah, focus on finding your strength within, focus on your core sense of so yeah, for the Virgos, the message there is to just work on just finding your center within and cultivating an emotional balance and a physical sense of security from within, irrespective of what may be going on around you, outside of you, or any kind of uncertainty, or you know, if you're waiting on a yes for something, for example, don't let that yes or no answer be what makes you feel good or bad. You know what I mean? Let your sense of self-esteem and your sense of self-value be constant and steady, and cultivate and work on that, and bring your emotional sense of well-being into an integrated space with your physical sense of well-being, and don't allow external circumstances to dictate that to you. Okay, Libra. Knight of Wands and the 3 of Swords in reverse. Okay. Some of you may be feeling like at this time you are looking to kind of pick up and start something new. But there may be some of you might be feeling like a little bit of residual pain from communication from someone that is maybe affecting, again, your confidence a little bit. For some of you, it could be about actually not hearing from someone that could be causing this feeling. But it's a similar, again, it's a sort of similar feeling from the last two readings there, where I feel as though like your sense of well-being need not be determined by how other people see you, or by getting a yes response from someone or something, or by receiving certain offers about things that will, like, don't let your self-esteem be dictated to by other people's opinion of you, or by the way other people communicate to you or about you. It's about cultivating your own sense of self-esteem from within, from a really solid place where nothing can really affect it too much from an external perspective. Scorpio, the sun, beautiful. With the Hangman, two major arcana cards here, really, really beautiful. I feel for the Scorpio people that this is an indication here that there's something, it's a sort of effortless feeling here where you're taking this position of the Hangman and just being patient and adaptable and like just being in whatever situation you're in right now without trying to change it in any way. That something is coming towards you, like, again, like offers, and something beneficial, something really positive is coming towards you, and there's nothing that you need to do in any way to change that or to affect that or to cause that. It's already in motion, and that you will soon probably hear of some very beneficial news and some offer coming towards you. It's what I feel with these two cards. I'm getting opportunities are coming, just be available. Okay. Now, Sagittarius, Four of Wands reversed and the Devil reversed. Okay. I think for some Sagittarian people, there may be a time now where you are addressing any kind of attachments to certain type of security. And maybe you're using this time to really see how your expression of comfort in the physical world could in some way be a kind of attachment, but it's fun. It's a funny kind of paradox, because what I was talking about in the very first general reading was basically about that, like allowing ourselves to experience a sense of expression of the divine, or sort of almost like a reverence or a type of appreciation or worship of the divine through the physical realm, through the senses, through tangible things, through our physical bodies. So this is a little bit of a reiteration of that. And for some of you, there could be something here around maybe needing to address places where there's some overindulgence, or also some deprivation. So bringing those things into balance and finding a way to kind of have a happy, balanced expression in the physical form where there's neither too much indulgence nor deprivation. Capricorn, Seven of Pentacles and Eight of Wands. Beautiful. This is really, really cool. Beautiful energy of like some kind of information coming towards you at this time, or some kind of, maybe during this time you might be moving forward with some kinds of investments, physical investments. Maybe you have been doing some research recently around investing in something like some kind of project, whether it's real estate or a new business, or some way that you're putting your energy into something physical with like a slow return later. For others of you, this is more about you kind of taking action and communicating with regard to your own health and well-being, with regard to, maybe you've been able to express something recently to someone in a way that helps them understand like what your values are, I'm hearing appreciation. Maybe you have been able to clearly communicate something recently to someone about what you think is important in ways that helps them understand you better. But this is a very beneficial energy here. Something is clearing, like something that maybe has been feeling a little blocked and stifled for some time finally is getting that breath of fresh air that it's needing. And with communication, heightened communication, this is not just like rambling communication. This card is Mercury in Sagittarius, so it's actually very heightened kind of communication of like a higher mind, wisdom coming through, clearing energy, clearing confusion, and I feel like this is about putting your effort into things that will have long-term beneficial results for you. So for some of you, this is about taking better care of your health. It may not be about investing in something physical, about money. This could be about your well-being in your physical body, in your spiritual and emotional body too. I'm seeing with this card now for the first time, this Eight of Wands card here. There's a river at the bottom, and I feel like this is the energy of like keeping things moving. Just keeping things moving, not getting stagnant or stuck in anything, but just like letting things move. On to the next. Aquarius. Page of Pentacles reversed and the Strength reversed. We have the Strength reversed in the extended cards from the general reading here. So for Aquarius, what I feel is here with this Page of Pentacles and Strength reversed is, again, some of you might be dealing with health issues. Actually, this could be about like for some of you needing to kind of focus a little bit more on your physical body and giving more attention to like creating a communication with your own physical form to help you understand specifically how certain parts of the body that you may be experiencing issues with could actually be relating to emotional, I'm hearing traumas, but emotional experiences or some kinds of like patterns within the psyche that need to be addressed and that you can really work with to gain a greater understanding of your wellness in a more broad sense, in a more multi-dimensional sense. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap that up now. That was the last reading there for the sign of Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that helpful. Of course, this information, while it's being shared today on the full moon in Libra, this is actually a much longer cycle. This is also just energy transmission for today. So you could come back to this at any time and watch it to get a review over these messages, and it could help you at any time. So thanks again for watching. Thank you for subscribing. It's an honor and a pleasure to read for you, and I'll see you in the next reading.